A rival studio offered Clint Eastwood's stunt double $500,000 to cause an accident on set, just enough to delay production and make Clint look unreliable. Rick Dalton said yes. He'd worked with Clint for 30 years. He knew every safety protocol. He knew exactly how to make it look accidental. But what Rick didn't know was that Clint had eyes everywhere. And when Clint found out, his revenge didn't just end Rick's career, it ended his freedom. It was March 2003, and Rick Dalton was sitting in a Mercedes dealership in Beverly Hills, staring at a car he couldn't afford. The S-Class sedan gleamed under showroom lights, $95,000 of German engineering that represented everything Rick had worked toward for 30 years but could never quite reach. Rick was 58 years old. He'd been Clint Eastwood's primary stunt double since 1973, 40 films spanning 3 decades. He'd taken falls for Clint, driven cars off cliffs, been set on fire, thrown through windows. His body was a roadmap of scars and surgeries. The pay was decent, better than most stunt work, but it wasn't Mercedes money. It wasn't retirement security. It was middle-class stability, with a body breaking down and not enough saved. His phone rang. Unknown number. Rick Dalton? A smooth voice. Professional. Speaking. Who's this? David Brenner, producer with Paramount Pictures. I have a business proposition. Can we meet for coffee? Rick knew the name. Brenner was rising at Paramount, known for aggressive tactics. He'd recently been put in charge of a Western competing directly with Clint's upcoming film, The Last Ride. Rick should have said no, should have hung up, should have called Clint immediately. But he was 58, looking at a car he couldn't afford, thinking about retirement without enough money. Tomorrow at 10, Rick said. The next morning, Rick sat across from David Brenner in a quiet corner booth. Brenner was younger than expected, maybe 42. Expensive suit, exuding confidence. I'll be direct, Brenner said, sliding a folder across the table. Paramount has $85 million invested in Iron Range. Same release window as Clint's film. We're competing for the same audience, same box office. What's that got to do with me? Clint Eastwood has a reputation for efficiency. Films on time, under budget, no drama. That reputation gives Warner Brothers confidence. It's a competitive advantage. Rick stayed silent. If that reputation took a hit, Brenner continued, if Clint's film went over budget, missed deadlines, had production problems, Warner Brothers might lose confidence. You want me to sabotage Clint's production? Rick said flatly. I want you to have an accident. A real accident that shuts down production for 3 weeks. Nothing permanent. Just enough to damage the film's prospects and Clint's reputation. I've worked with Clint for 30 years. And what has that gotten you? Brenner leaned forward. Financial security? Your name above the title? Or just more scars, while Clint gets richer off the risks you take? Rick said nothing, but Brenner saw the flicker of resentment. $500,000, Brenner said. Cash. Untraceable. Offshore account. All you do is have an accident during a stunt. You've done stunts for 40 years. You know exactly how to make it look accidental. If I get caught, you won't. It's a stunt. Stunts go wrong. That's why you exist. And even if someone suspected, you'll be gone with $500,000. Rick looked at the folder. Inside were bank details and photos of upcoming stunts in Clint's production schedule. Think about it, Brenner said, standing. 48 hours. After that, we find another way. 2 days later, Rick called the number. I'm in, but I want half up front. Done, Brenner replied. The money will be in your account tomorrow. Clint's car chase is March 28th. That's your window. The account confirmation arrived the next day, with $250,000 deposited in a Cayman Islands account. Rick stared at it, feeling the weight of what he'd agreed to do. 30 years of friendship sold for money he told himself he deserved. The Last Ride began filming March 15th, 2003, in the scrubland outside Albuquerque. Classic Clint Eastwood production. Efficient. Professional. No drama. Rick was on set every day, coordinating stunts, ensuring safety. Clint trusted him completely. That trust made what Rick was planning feel worse. But every time doubt crept in, Rick thought about the $250,000 already banked and the $250,000 more coming. March 28th arrived, the day scheduled for the major car chase sequence. Rick would drive a vintage Mustang through narrow canyon roads at high speed. Rick knew exactly how to make it go wrong. During the sequence, he'd misjudge a turn and clip a safety barrier, triggering a controlled rollover. The car's roll cage would protect him, but the impact would cause whiplash, maybe a broken collarbone, enough to shut down production for 3 weeks. What Rick didn't know was that someone had been watching him, following him, documenting his meeting with Brenner, tracking his offshore account, building a file currently sitting on Clint Eastwood's desk. The morning of March 28th, Rick arrived for the safety briefing. Everything was normal, professional. Clint arrived at 6 a.m., quiet and focused. He walked over to Rick. "Big day," Clint said. "You good with the sequence?" "Done it 100 times," Rick replied. "Nothing I can't handle." Clint studied him, those famous narrowed eyes seeing something. "You sure? You seem off. We can push this if you need more prep." "I'm fine. Let's get it done." Clint nodded slowly, then put his hand on Rick's shoulder. 30 years, Rick. Longer than most marriages. I want you to know I appreciate everything. After this film wraps, I'm setting up a retirement fund for you. Should have done it years ago. Rick felt his justification crumbling, but he'd already taken $250,000. He was committed. "Thanks, Clint. That means a lot." At 8 a.m., they were ready. Rick climbed into the Mustang, secured his harness. Action. Rick hit the accelerator. The Mustang roared down the canyon road. Pursuit vehicles fell in behind. Rick approached the turn where he'd planned his accident. His hands tightened. But something felt wrong. The steering too loose, brake pedal too soft. This wasn't his controlled plan. Rick tried to compensate, but the car was pulling hard toward the canyon edge. This wasn't the accident he'd planned. This was real. The car hit the barrier at 60 miles per hour, not at the calculated angle, but straight on. The Mustang flipped, rolled 3 times. Chaos. Safety crews racing. Clint running, reaching the wreck first. Rick was conscious but trapped, hanging upside down, blood running from his forehead. "Don't move," Clint said calmly. "We'll get you out." "Clint, save it," Clint said quietly. "I know." Those 2 words hit harder than the crash. "I know." The safety team extracted Rick. Broken ribs, concussion, sprained wrist, but alive. As they loaded him onto a stretcher, Rick saw Clint standing with 2 men in suits, showing photographs, documents. Rick realized with horror, Clint had known about the bribe, the plan, everything. And someone had sabotaged the Mustang to make Rick's fake accident real. 3 hours later, Clint walked into Rick's hospital room, alone. "How you feeling?" "Like karma caught up with me." Clint pulled up a chair. He didn't look angry. He looked disappointed. "I've known for 2 weeks," Clint said. "My security noticed you meeting Brenner. Started following you. Found the offshore account. Found everything." Rick closed his eyes. "So you sabotaged the car?" "No," Clint said. "I didn't touch it. But I told the stunt coordinator to triple-check every system, and he found that someone had tampered with the steering and brakes." Rick's eyes snapped open. "What?" "Brenner had someone sabotage the car for a real accident. Fatal. Make me look negligent. Sue Warner Brothers. Create massive problems. And never pay you the second half. Because dead men can't collect." The horror sank in. Brenner never intended for Rick to survive. "My coordinator found the tampering during inspection," Clint continued. "Fixed it. Saved your life without you knowing you were supposed to die." "Why?" Rick whispered. "After what I did, why save me?" Clint was quiet. 30 years counts for something, even when you forgot it did. "I'm sorry. God, Clint, I'm so sorry. I know. I should have taken care of you better. That's on me. But betraying 30 years? That's on you." Clint stood. "The police are outside. They want to talk about the bribery and attempted sabotage. Brenner was arrested 3 hours ago. FBI's involved. What happens to me? That's up to you." Cooperate. Testify against Brenner. Take responsibility. Or lawyer up and face maximum charges alone. What would you do? Clint looked at him. I'd tell the truth. I'd take responsibility. I'd hope 30 years of loyalty before one mistake might count for something. He turned toward the door. Clint, Rick called. I was going to fake it. Just delay production. I wasn't trying to kill anyone. It doesn't make it better, Clint said quietly, but it makes it different than what Brenner planned. And different matters. He left. Rick never saw him again. Rick cooperated fully. He testified against Brenner, detailed the bribery. In exchange, prosecutors reduced charges. Rick received 3 years federal prison, eligible for parole, after 18 months. David Brenner received 8 years. The investigation revealed he'd attempted similar sabotages on other productions. Paramount fired him immediately. The Last Ride resumed production 4 days later with a new stunt coordinator. The film wrapped on schedule, under budget, released to critical acclaim. Rick served 14 months. During that time, no one from Hollywood called. No one visited. The stunt community had zero tolerance for betrayal. But 3 days before Rick's release, a letter arrived. No return address. Inside was a cashier's check for $75,000 and a brief note in handwriting Rick recognized. 30 years counts for something. This is what I would have put in your retirement fund. Use it to start over. But understand, your career in film is finished. No one will hire you. This money is all you're getting. Make it last. And Rick, the people who bribe you will always be the same people who try to kill you. C.E. Rick cried reading it, not because of the money, though it meant he wouldn't be homeless. He cried because Clint had every reason to hate him, and instead gave him exactly what Rick claimed he needed. The revenge wasn't cruel. It was perfect. Clint saved Rick's life, helped put Brenner in prison, finished his film successfully, and made sure Rick understood betrayal has permanent consequences. Rick would live, but his career was over. He'd have money, but no respect. Freedom, but no friends. Rick moved to Arizona after release, bought a small house, never worked in film again. Nobody returned his calls. In Hollywood, reputation is everything, and Rick's was destroyed. Years later, a film student tracked Rick down for a documentary. Rick told the full story publicly for the first time. Clint saved my life twice, Rick said in the interview. Once when he caught the tampering, once when he gave me money to start over. But he also ended my career permanently, and he was right to. I betrayed 30 years of friendship for money I didn't need as badly as I thought. The worst part isn't losing my career. It's that I proved Clint's trust wasn't deserved, and that's something you can't buy back. The stunt community watched with grim satisfaction. Rick's story became a cautionary tale. This is what happens when you prioritize money over trust. When Clint was asked about the incident years later, he gave his brief response. Film sets run on trust. Stunt work requires absolute trust. When someone breaks that, the consequences have to be permanent. Not because I'm vindictive, but because safety depends on knowing your crew won't compromise for money. He paused. But 30 years of loyalty before one mistake? That counts for something too. It's why I made sure he could survive afterward. Just not in this industry. The story became legendary in Hollywood because it was Clint being exactly who he always was. Ruthlessly professional, unexpectedly merciful, absolutely unwavering in standards. Rick Dalton lost his career for $250,000 he never should have accepted. Clint Eastwood gained another story, reinforcing why he was a legend. He knew how to balance justice with mercy, destroy someone's career while saving their life, and teach a lesson no one would forget. If this story of trust, betrayal, and calculated mercy moved you, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to remember that loyalty isn't just tested in grand moments. It's tested when someone offers you money to betray the people who trusted you most. Have you ever seen someone destroy a lifetime of trust for short-term gain? Share your story in the comments.